I think we're all sick and tired of the fact that Manchester United just can't seem to sell players. This isn't anything new, but now it's so much more detrimental to the club's plans. Ruben Amorim can kiss goodbye to extra signings unless things change. But why are we so bad when it comes to sales? Well, there's a lot of talk about it at the moment, but it seems like a lot of people are missing something pretty simple about these struggles.
Hello everybody and welcome back to United District, and today I think it is time that we have to start speaking about these player exits or lack of at Manchester United, because it's really starting to impact this window, and it was always going to be the trouble for United, and that's come true. These players, these 5 players in particular, because United could and probably would prefer to sell more and sell players who are back training with the squad. But these are the 5 who Ruben Amorim and the United hierarchy clearly don't see in the club's future, and that's why they've essentially told them to not return to pre-season. Obviously, a quick background on those 5. This was the first kind of report which come out about their situation, how they apparently said that they wanted to leave the club, which then led to United allowing them extra time away from pre-season training to facilitate those moves. Of course, since then, it's basically been explained that that's not the case for all of those players. They're almost being told they should leave, and that some of these players have turned up to Carrington but trained on their own. Amorim doesn't want them with the squad, and ideally, he'd probably want all 5 of them out of the door by now, which then gives United the transfer money to get some more signings, but that's not been the case. Now, in this video, I want to speak about the reason why this is so difficult, because I think a lot of people are pinning this on the fact that these 5 have been exiled from the squad, if you'd like, not training with the first team. It's been made clear that United want them gone, and the view is that that's ruined United's negotiation power, and potentially it has, but I do think that there's other reasons that we just need to consider and are so much more impactful. Because, like I mentioned in the intro, or had a quick mention of it, Phil Jones as an example, there's loads more. United haven't been able to sell players before. And a quick example just on this, I think it's an interesting point, is a report from the Manchester Evening News this week. Just had this section involved, which I thought was interesting. So it's essentially speaking about Jadon Sancho last summer, where obviously he went on loan to Borussia Dortmund, he had his troubles with Erik ten Hag. But then in the summer, it all seemed like Sancho had apologised, that was what was being reported. He even played on the entire pre-season tour with United, and it seemed like he might stay. Obviously there were still links, and he did end up leaving. But obviously the play by the United board last summer with Sancho was saying, Ten Hag, we want you to bring him, integrate him back into the squad, make it seem like he's a happy camper, and hopefully we can get him out of the door. Well, what happened? They had to wait until deadline day, and then all they could get was an obligation from Chelsea on a loan, where Chelsea could opt out of the agreement because there wasn't even enough time, or they couldn't reach an agreement on wages. So they went the complete opposite direction with Sancho last summer, and the same outcome happened. And now, with him in particular, it seems like the way that they're going to get him out of the door, finally, is by giving him a severance package where they essentially give him a bunch of money to make up for the wage loss. So we worked both ways with Jadon Sancho, and they've both worked out quite poorly. Unless he gets sold in the next week or so for more than the measly 13 million that Juventus are reportedly offering, then you've tried both ways and neither of them have really worked out. Now, I think the crux of the issue, I think there's a couple of things, and personally I do think that they're much more important than whether a player's training or not. Partly because this whole idea that they're less desirable because it's clear that Manchester United don't want them. Well, think about it. Even though that the club are really bad right now, 90% of the players who end up leaving is because the club don't want them. Otherwise, they'd stay. Otherwise, United would push to keep them like they did with Bruno Fernandes. So, I don't think much changes. If all of those players were in pre-season and playing, and United had a few snaps of them on their Twitter account, would that really change much? I think it's a deeper issue, and it's pretty simple. If you get better performances on the pitch, your club's in a more stable position over the long term, because ours definitely is not, then you don't look as desperate, or, well, I say look, United are desperate. Whether the players are in training or not, it's pretty obvious to everyone involved that United need new signings, and they are broke, and they need to get players out of the door. And obviously, the wages are a big kind of stumbling block with a lot of these players, because naturally United pay much higher wages than a lot of clubs, and some players definitely don't deserve those kind of wages. But United almost have a reputation now, and the problem is that it didn't really affect them in the past. Tell me, how much do you think Robin van Persie went for in 2015, was it, when he left the club? How much did United sell him for? I bet you don't know. I bet like 90% of you don't know the answer, because who cares? He was successful for us. He left after a few years, and I think United got about £3 million for him. And if that was to happen today in United, one of United's good players, because he was still a half-decent player, I think a bit injury-prone, but if a decent player went for that kind of price now, it would be like, oh God, this is disgraceful, like, we're so bad at selling. I don't think United are ever going to be in Brentford's situation. So obviously Brentford have all the cards with Mbeumo, because they're in the situation where they're like, you can pay us what we want, and if you don't match that, then it doesn't matter, because we still want this player. That's the kind of position that they're in as a club. Whereas United, if a player's their best player, like Bruno Fernandes, they don't want to lose them. On top of that, the reputation that is built, I think, over those years of United just being idiots in the transfer market. I think they've built a reputation, and it's a little bit unfair on the new guys, because it's not really their doing over the past like 10, 15 years, but the transfer business has been substandard, poor, and I think everyone kind of in the industry knows that and almost wants to take advantage of it. How United fix it? It's difficult to answer, because they're obviously trying to take a bit more of a stern approach. They don't want to just sell all of these players for peanuts, like Jadon Sancho going for 10 million. They don't want that. It might have not even been something they considered in the past, because they didn't need the money. But United right now need the money. It's quite a unique situation for the club, I think, and it's because of almost the previous regimes not really caring about it and not really prioritising player sales. Ultimately, if you're doing well on the pitch as a squad, and you've got a few of these kind of players who either aren't good enough, or you want them out of the squad for personality reasons, etc., whatever. If the majority of players are doing well, then it almost becomes a non-story. Like, for example, think of Liverpool and Darwin Núñez. A lot of people think he's a joke, even though, like, some people think he's good, some people think he's a joke. But they can probably sell him, if they're going to sell him this summer, I'm not entirely sure. They could probably sell him for a decent amount of money, because even though sometimes he might be awful at finishing, or he might be petulant and different things like that, he's got a team around him who make it not the main story. Whereas United, especially with the type of club this is and the amount of attention, when bad stuff happens, that is the headline. And there's no real good stuff to kind of take away the attention. This stuff from Garnacho, like, does this happen at another club? Because United are so bad, all these negative stories drive the narrative. And of course, this doesn't help. I'm not saying it helps to like almost banish these players, but I don't think it's that much different without it either. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. It's a frustrating kind of topic, and hopefully I'll be able to say in a couple of weeks' time that 2 or 3 of them are out of the club, but it's difficult for United. It has been for years, and it's probably going to be a slow, painful process if they really do want to change this narrative and change the story around them selling players, because it seems like they might need to. Let me know all your thoughts on this topic in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, feel free to give it a like, subscribe to the channel if you are new. That's all from me. I'll see you in the next one.